Razer's new keyboard is basically
This
cheating.
is what game movement looks like on Razer's new keyboard. It achieves perfect
Okay.
strafing inputs. No movement overlap, no delay between direction changes. This movement accuracy is 100% impossible on a normal keyboard, and in the
Okay.
past, this way of input handling has been determined as cheating. Razer, though, are calling it
Really?
SnapTap. It's a free update that's available on their Huntsman V3 analog keyboards, and after testing
Huntsman V3 analog keyboard. Huntsman V3 analog keyboard. Holy. Um, that's a lot of money, guys. I think that if you gotta pay to win, okay? You gotta have the money in order to do that, okay? You want to cheat, you gotta pay to cheat. All right, let's keep going.
this thing out, it is 100% something that we need to talk about. Normal gaming keyboards look like this. You've got a 2mm actuation point. Beyond that,
Okay.
the key is active, and above that point, the key is reset. That's pretty much it. The main issue
Okay.
here is that there's a lot of delay between what you intend to happen when you press or release a switch and the point when that actually
So they're
happens.
just gonna move the
But
bar
then,
up?
Wooding mostly fixed this. They came out with their adjustable actuation points, making the press
Yeah.
delay basically as minimal as
Guys, this isn't new. This isn't new. Like they had the elite controllers where you used to for Xbox where you used to like press the trigger and then it would activate, and now it's just like a little throw. It's just like having like a hair trigger. They do this with actual firearms too, but like, just actuating faster. That seems pretty. It's not new.
as you'd want, along with a feature called Rapid Trigger, allowing the switch to instantly reset the moment it starts lifting up. This feels leaps and bounds more intuitive to play on, and since the majority of keyboard input lag is actually the physical travel of the switch, it offers literally
Interesting.
multiple frames of lower latency pressing and releasing switches. But there's actually one more thing. On the Wooding, it is still technically possible to overlap your movement keys. If you start pressing one direction before releasing the other, you're technically actuating both keys at the same time, and in most games, this will give you no input. The chance of this happening is way lower than a regular mechanical keyboard, but it is still there, and that is where this new feature from Razer comes in, called SnapTap. It only activates your last pressed input, now making it impossible to overlap your movement keys. If you hold down one key and then press the opposite direction without
Technology.
releasing the other, you'll just start moving in that new direction. There is no movement
Holy
overlap at all,
frick,
and there's
man.
also no delay between the left and right movement. You
Crazy.
can be moving in one direction on one frame and then instantly get an input
Gotta be
in
cheating,
the opposite
man.
direction,
There's no way
literally
this is
the
okay.
next
It's fair.
frame. No other keyboard can do this. Now in Counter-Strike, the most important movement technique to learn is called counter-strafing. It's when you release one movement key and then tap the opposite one to stop
Vanishing says, no keyboard's gonna make you suck less at the game. I guess it's kind of true. We're trying to min max here, man.
moving
That's
as
what this
soon
is.
as you possibly
$220 in order to min max a little bit.
can. In this game, you only have full accuracy at 0 movement velocity or very close to it, so the sooner you can stop moving, the sooner you can fire an accurate shot. And this technique takes a lot of practice. It looks easy if you've never tried it before, but consider the precise timing that you need to release and press that new switch every single time in the heat of a game, with no movement overlap and no delay between those inputs. It is legitimately something that you could still be improving after thousands of hours of playing this game. This keyboard though can do it perfectly every single time with like no effort. All you need to do is be moving in one direction and tap the opposite direction, and you get a perfect counter strafe every single time. And I don't mean like perfect as in like kind of perfect, I mean frame by frame. This is as perfect of a counter strafe as the game engine will allow. So here's a bit of a counter strafing simulation between
I
the
see
Razer
exactly how
Huntsman
this
Mini
is
V3 and
cheating.
the Wooding 60. These two solenoids will perform a strafe and a counter strafe, so we can see which keyboard will give us the better movement. And to kind of simulate human error, I've added a tiny bit of overlap. Basically, if you were to start pressing one key without lifting the other immediately, which is way more common than you might think, especially under the pressure of a
course.
competitive game.
Also because I'm shit at playing keyboard and mouse, but I'm also shit at playing controller, so there's like, yeah.
Even for a pro player. And yeah, we can see a difference. Razer's Snap Tap gets us back to full weapon accuracy roughly 60 to 70 milliseconds faster. And
That's a
maybe more importantly
huge
here,
amount.
there are several frames where you'll be at full accuracy on the Razer, but
Whoa.
almost full spread on the Wooding. And then in Overwatch, where you don't have counter strafing, but you do have instant changes in direction, it's a very similar result. Not something that's easily noticeable in real time, but keep in mind this is the exact same input happening on both keyboards, but with a different result. I've also only simulated a tiny bit of overlap of just 50 milliseconds. The worse that overlap is, the more dramatic this result will be. But again, the big thing here is how easy this is to do every single time, and you get a perfect input. I can personally count.
Guys, I think I'm going to spend $220 on a keyboard that I don't need to play a game that I don't play just so I can cheat at a game and win.
The number of times that I've
Actually, you know what? I'll probably just spend $220 and still fucking lose because I'm that bad.
played CS, it's enough to know that
Shower Branch, thank you for the follow.
my movement is pretty bad, but this keyboard turned me into a counter-strafing god within about 5 minutes of practice. It
Oh
was
my God.
so easy to do over and over again. Even under the pressure of a 1v1, this keyboard just did it for me. But then I noticed something that's maybe even more broken.
That's so
If you
cheap.
hold down one direction and keep tapping the opposite direction, you can do absolutely perfect jiggle strafing. Again here, no input overlapping or delay, it's brutally easy to do, and if you stay
What?
within the right dead zone in Counter-Strike, you still technically have full accuracy. It makes micro-correcting with little
Cheating.
strafe inputs absurdly easy. You
I
can
didn't
do
know what to expect
perfect
with this,
jiggle
but it
peeks around
absolutely
corners
is.
with like no effort at all, and you're a lot harder to hit compared to just standing still or crouching. It's kind of busted in Overwatch as well. I mean, it's like the most insane strafe spam that I've personally ever seen. This kind of strafe with no error or delay is actually impossible on any other keyboard unless you're a robot. The usefulness of this in an actual competitive match though is definitely up for debate.
But they don't let
used
it
in a more
in
normal
competitive
way where
matches.
you're
They don't let
actually
it in.
dodging and mirroring enemy input, it does definitely feel like a more responsive and clean input. Now this snap tap feature, this way of only prioritizing your last pressed input, is actually nothing new. It's been around for a while
saying.
in both Team Fortress 2 and Counter-Strike with something called null cancelling movement. It's a script which basically does the same thing on pretty much any keyboard, and at least in CS, it wasn't allowed in competition.
Easy.
This new keyboard, though, apparently is allowed at the highest level of ESL tournaments, which is
What?
gonna
So
be
basically everybody has this keyboard now. They basically just have everyone have this keyboard because you're at a disadvantage if you don't. It was the same thing whenever they used to have the headsets for MLG, Major League Gaming. So like everybody started getting really into the headsets, and then at some point, if you didn't have the headset, then you weren't taking things seriously anymore. So if you don't have that keyboard, you're not serious about Counter-Strike.
interesting
Overwatch.
for sure. For most people who are just going to be using this to rank up online though, I don't think that this is like bannable or even detectable because it's doing it at
Yeah, how?
a hardware level.
The
Maybe
hardware.
I'm wrong there, but yeah,
Not
I think
possible.
we're at an interesting point in time with gaming keyboards,
Get
especially
reported, though.
where game developers and tournament referees need to look at this stuff and actually decide whether it is broken for their particular game. Especially the way that it can be used to AD spam so quickly and so accurately with no error. Yeah, I don't know, that's just not normal. For those that play Valorant though, there's actually nothing to worry about here because Razer's Snap Tap is actually not that useful. Counter-strafing in Valorant is nowhere near as strong as in CS. You do get slightly shorter animations, but yeah, Rapid Trigger has a much greater effect here. At the very least, it is a nice feature that means that you will never be overlapping inputs, but that's pretty much it. Now, Wooting does have a kind of similar feature to this called Rappy Snappy. It's similar in the way that it won't let you overlap inputs, but instead it prioritizes the furthest pressed input, not the last pressed input like Razer. Wooting's version
I didn't know about any of this, guys. Like, where have I been to not like micro think about this? Like, where's my mind been? Like, I never really thought about like the travel time of my keyboard for mechanical keyboards. Also, like, do you really care if it's a mechanical keyboard or whatever the opposite of a mechanical keyboard is? It just goes to show you how little I know about these things. But this keyboard seems definitely like
FPS
cheating.
games, it's not too beneficial since most people are going to be pressing their movement keys to full depth. Otherwise, this thing is seriously
I read all of my chats, my guy. Of course, of course I'm reading what you said. I love you.
OP, especially for CS. I can see why a few pro players don't want this thing to be included in competition. Game movement, after all, is a skill. Just like your aim, it takes thousands of hours to get it to a really competitive level. With this keyboard though, you're kind of cheat coding your way to a perfect input. I mean, the fact that I can pick up this keyboard and have like
Good.
actually
Equalize
better
it.
strafing inputs than some pro players out there, that does make this feel kind of broken.
It is broken. That is absolutely broken. Anything that gives you a competitive edge is broken. So, like, if I have a mouse that has no delay, and you have a mouse that does have delay, then I'm gonna win if we're of the same skill level. That's how it works. So, you either pay to win, or you don't win, or you're so good that it doesn't matter what kind of input somebody gives to you. You're just too skilled. You're just way better than they ever will be. And that's always a possibility too. But this is cheating, and I agree.